Welcome, orange men and ladies. Look, it's another episode of Ty Thoughts, okay? But before we get to Tyler and all of his thoughts, we're going to hear from our title sponsor for the Cuse Militia, for Ty Thoughts, and for Armchair Media, and that is betonline.ag. And as you know, football everywhere. SEC starting up, or has started up, and the Big Ten coming, and it's here, and we hope it finishes. Now, you might not be able to get to a game this year, but you can still get in on all the action at BetOnline. BetOnline is going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on everything imaginable this season, from game spreads and totals to team, player, coach, and props. BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any other place online. Head over there today, betonline.ag. Use a promo code ARMCHAIR to take advantage of all of the great sign-up bonuses. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Thank you, BetOnline. Now, here's Tyler and his thoughts.
And what is up? It is Tyler Morona coming back to you again for another episode of Ty Thoughts. Wanted to first off give an apology for a delay last week and kind of just an irregular schedule. For me, I think it's well chronicled that I got married and then spent some time with my wife before she went back to Texas for because if you don't know the situation, we're not separated as far as like we just got married. The relationship is still very much on, but we're working in different states right now. So, and of course, when we got married, we're still working in different states. So, anyhow, that's been really tough on me. And actually, that's been probably the toughest thing on me for a while now. And I didn't really expect to have this, kind of wear on me. And then as well as the fact that I got a job in a classroom helping out some teachers. I'm kind of getting an internship in at a school. Then I'm coaching in the afternoons, and then I'm going to graduate school at night. So definitely got my hands full, and then trying to do this as well as trying to take care of my body and all the necessary things. So I just want to apologize. I want to kind of give you that shout out. And then lastly, I started to record last week, but I just kind of drew a blank because. And I'm drawing a little bit of a blank more now, so because of what happened yesterday, and there's just not a whole lot that we can say for this Cuse football team. I think that we all kind of got a feel last year for what it was like when we thought, we're the 8 wins or the 9 wins, the 10 wins, that's off the table. And then when we got humbled that way, we go, okay, well, at least maybe it's 6, and then it ends up being 5 and 7. And last year definitely should have been at least an even record, 6-6. I think that there's no doubt it should have been an even record at the very minimum, because if we convert a couple times against Pitt, we have that game, no problem. I mean, that game was like sloppiest slop fest of all time. And and it's funny that, we can kind of look back and say, oh man, last year's team was so much better than this year's, but it's the reality. This is a humbling moment. And I think what's so tough about this humbling moment for everybody seeing Liberty win and celebrate in our locker room is that there shouldn't really be a reason for that happening. And so when I think about this as far as like an NFL landscape, going like, what if my favorite team was, the worst team in football? You can sit there and you can blame other people besides the head coach or the institution or the franchise. It's like, okay, it starts off with the president of football ops, and then it goes down to the GM. And then maybe if you want to blame the owner, you can, if he's cheap or if he or she is cheap. And I kind of think about it with the Lakers and kind of, reflect back on how they're winning and they won the championship. And it was kind of despite all the facts that the Buss family kind of stacked the odds against themselves for so many years before kind of relinquishing power and being like, let's actually run this thing like a normal franchise. And the tough part about college athletics is that you don't really get that opportunity to kind of reset that often, because when you do, it's like, okay, you have to tear down the entire thing. It's like basically starting a franchise all over again. So we're not in the position to start a franchise all over again, but the Lakers tried to do that. And what they did was they used their branding to get behind the acquisition of LeBron and Anthony Davis, and then put together guys that would trust those folks to get the job done. And you know what? It worked. But that's mainly because there was a lot of things that worked in the Lakers' favor that were kind of outside their control. And now we're kind of seeing the opposite of that at Syracuse. Syracuse is finding out all the things that go in the opposite direction of their favor. All these guys opt out. All these guys get hurt. The Cisco thing was, as soon as I heard that he was going out with, and he wasn't playing anymore, to me, I thought that maybe he was limping, but this was a guy that just said, you know what? I've proved all I can prove. I picked off one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I can play really well. I put some games on tape this year. And you know what? There's no more benefit of me playing anymore. I'm headed to the NFL. And you know what? In a weird way, although it hurts Syracuse this year, in the long run it helps. Because that's something that's in our control, that we recruited a guy that ended up turning into an All-American safety that's going to be probably a top 100 pick. I'm praying the Dallas Cowboys take Cisco. We've been hurting for that guy for like 10 years now. I keep writing into the, Stephen Jones, like, hey, look at this guy number 7 on the Syracuse Orange. This guy is legit. So I think it does actually in the long run help us quite a bit because, hey, the more guys that we can put into the NFL that build our brand, the better off we are. Yes, it hurts in the moment. And I read Mike McAllister's SI piece, which, to be honest, I didn't even know that he left 24/7 until Stephen Bailey took the 24/7 job. And yeah, I guess good for them. So, excuse me. The branding of Syracuse needs to get a lot better because right now our brand is we lose a lot. And we're the worst team in the ACC on our side of the division. And I put out a poll on SyracuseFan.com to kind of see where we were at with kind of the state of the union on where we thought that Syracuse should be on average. And a lot of people got back to me saying 6.5 to 7.5 wins. A lot of people thought that 9 wins, maybe not a lot, but I saw a few people that thought 8.5 to 9 wins was the kind of the floor. And that is never the case. I don't think 9 wins is the floor for LSU, or I think 9.5 wins is the floor for Ohio State, or maybe even at Penn State, maybe like a rung below an Ohio State. Not 8.5 to 9 wins is like that's like USC territory. That's Southern Cal territory. That's not Syracuse territory, and maybe that's hard to kind of accept. But look, right now Syracuse is we should be happy with 6-6. That's kind of where I'm going with that, and the reason why we should be happy with it is because and they talked about this a lot when I was on campus, and you can ask anybody else that was there during my time that made the switch from the Big East, which, in all honesty, I was kind of excited that that the Big East kind of dissolved, but I would have played in the Big East. I liked it. I liked the schools there, but there wasn't a whole lot of merit to like the school. Because now if you look at them and you say, hey, look, Cincinnati, Rutgers, among many others. What can I not think right now? That were in that division. But UConn. I mean, it was kind of uninspiring football back in the day. So it's like you don't want to be lumped into that category. You want to be more lumped in with the winners. And I always say that I want to be the dumbest guy in the room, be surrounded by everybody else that's smarter than me, so I can get something out of that. Because when I'm the smartest guy in the room, whether it be with football or academics or whatever the case may be, you put yourself in a weird position because everybody looks to you for kind of the answers, or the people look to you for that leadership that maybe you're not ready for, or maybe that's something that you didn't sign up for, but by being there, you automatically assume the position of the leader in that situation. So when I'm kind of in this football or anything that's interesting to me, I always prefer to be the dumbest guy in the room, because then by proximity, I just get smarter. When I got to Syracuse and I was the guy that was middle of the road with my strength, and I was in the upper tier of my conditioning, and there was another tier to kind of unlock myself, but there's maybe 2 or 3 tiers for me to climb on my overall strength and size. Just by being around other guys that lifted the same amount as me, and there were plenty of them, and I was also seeing what was possible with, let's say, like a Cam Lynch doing a near 400-pound power clean, and I was doing like 285, and then you think, okay, well, if a guy's doing 115 more pounds than me, then it's possible to get to that level. But if I'm doing 285 at my high school or my junior college or my prep school or whatever else, and I'm 50 pounds heavier than the next guy, that doesn't do a whole lot for me as far as the, by proximity, the growth by proximity. Now, when I was all of a sudden lifting with Rob Trudeau and Nick Robinson and Mike Lasker and all these guys that are big offensive linemen that I'm now looking smaller than, just by them saying, hey, no, look, just you start at 225. You don't end at 225 with bench, or, whatever the case is. It's like, hey, let's do this. I got stronger immediately. I put on so much weight immediately just because I was around other guys and I was seeing what was possible, and I was no longer having to trailblaze my own path. I was following in the path of somebody else, just like when I was a freshman in high school. I saw what was possible with the seniors, and then I grabbed that as the benchmark, and then I wanted to shoot through it. And it was the same thing. And Syracuse is kind of in that same situation right now with the ACC. They realize how weak they are with football, and they're having to see what is possible with the Clemsons, and then when the Florida States of the world are up there, or with Virginia Techs of the world even, North Carolina's right now with Mac, and we say, look, this is possible. We will always have that uphill climb with recruiting. And reading Mike McAllister's piece that I mentioned earlier, he said that all the recruits that he talked to said that nothing's really changed with them. They're committed. They're coming. And I think it was actually a pretty good crop of kids that said that they were coming, and guys that you want to come. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way as me, but I don't always agree with the guys that make up the entire the class. And sometimes you're like, oh, would it have killed us to maybe just kind of not take that guy, or wait and see what comes about later on, or if we're missing anybody. Because like that linebacker that we got from Virginia Beach this year was awesome, and like nobody wanted him. So that's kind of one of those things that it's like, okay, well, I don't think we have to rush to judgment here, or we don't have to burn that scholarship just like that. And a lot of guys are transferring out too, so maybe that's kind of the reason for it. However, all the recruits were they're on board, but this is one of those monumental times where you got to say, look, you got to look around and see, hey, if who else is losing to their Group of 5 team this year in the Power 5. If it's nobody, or is it everybody? Remember, Iowa State, that coach is praised and lauded for, introducing the 3-3-5 defense and having Brock Purdy, this, NFL type caliber quarterback. And look, they lost to University of Louisiana, not Louisiana State, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. So, and yes, the Raging Cajuns were, an 11-win team last year. But Liberty is going to be an 11-win team this year. So, you can beat yourself up about this, or you can say, look, I see what's possible. I now demand for the rest of time to start increasing, to start leveling up from here, coach and staff. The kids that are coming in, the good recruits, the guys that were rated 4 stars before they signed with us, of course, those guys are saying, we believe in the staff. We believe that he'll turn it around. And look, guys, if you don't like what's going on and you want all these guys out of here, guess what? All these kids that are coming in, they're expecting to play right away. So don't think that this is like going off with, and coaches are like, oh, great, we'll just kind of lick our wounds and move on. Hopefully 2021's better and there's no corona. We can go outside and practice a lot and things will be better. I'd love for that to be the case. However, these incremental building blocks, Clemson wasn't built in a night. I mean, where they are now or where Alabama was originally or whenever Saban took over for, his program, it takes time. And I'm not so sure that if Nick Saban all the way back in his prime when he was, just kind of starting out and trying to make that name, would he have done well at Syracuse? Yes, he probably would have done well. Would he have done better? Yes, probably so. But the other thing is, guys, is that don't get it twisted. Nick Saban, if he would have had success at Syracuse, he would have left and he would have gone somewhere else. So we're making this deal with the devil. If we want a coach to stay at Syracuse and make it into a winner consistently, we're going to have to deal with some bad seasons because in order for that coach to not get plucked away, unfortunately, a stinker or two is going to have to be on the record, kind of like a Cutcliffe style. Now, Cutcliffe, I think, has a little bit easier of a job, too, because the difference with the Duke situation, the Syracuse situation, Syracuse faces weather and facilities, which are very far behind the times, by the way. And I went and talked to our fundraising program, kind of get a State of the Union, and I also went to go interview with them last year because I was thinking about going to work for them. And they show me this is what we're up against. In Syracuse, when you think, okay, so we're dead last in our facilities rated by an outside firm to come in. Syracuse is rated dead last in quality of life. Syracuse is rated dead last in almost all these qualities, except for like school spirit, and like shit talking fans on the internet. Those are kind of the two things that we weren't lackluster in. And we were last in our fundraising so we were last, and the chasm between 14th and 13th was the chasm between like 10 and 1st. It's like we are so, like, even though we're one spot behind, we might as well have been 10 spots behind. Like, we might as well have had a fictitious 10 spots to put us behind. And I will tell you this. I then saw what was going on last year after the 10-win season and what we had seen moving forward. And, kind of the projections and the guys that had already committed sums. And that gap was almost erased. And so if the group that's going to be in there now and our AD is now really picking up steam, the basketball program is actually doing well, I think, as well as we look even better as we're going along. All of our other sports are in a great position. Lacrosse is as strong as it's ever been. The women's sports are turning around. It is just a matter of time until this thing flattens out. And that is why I have optimism here. It's not because that I think Dino's a good guy or because the recruits are coming in or doing good. It's because, just like the Lakers, everybody at Syracuse decided we need to do everything different. And we're doing that. And it's incredible. And Coach will give us some belief with evidence very soon. I think that the Liberty video of them partying in our locker room and going after it, that will cause some people to take some things seriously, to man up, and hopefully, move up and move on. And in that time, I think that it's just going to be really rough from here on out the rest of the season. There's not a whole lot else I can say besides that.
We'll be right back with some more Tie Thoughts here in a moment. But first, we got to hear from the good folks over at betonline.ag. Now, look, football's in full effect. You know this. Many teams out there strutting their stuff. In MLB playoffs, they're in full swing. You might not be able to get to a game this year, but you can still get in all the action at BetOnline. BetOnline's going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on everything imaginable this season, from game spread and totals to team, player, and coaching props. BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any other place online. Head to BetOnline today and use the promo code ARMCHAIR to take advantage of all of the great sign-up bonuses. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Thank you, BetOnline. Manscaped, they're at it again, forever changing the grooming game with their new Weed Whacker. This is a nose and ear hair trimmer, provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. The delicate holes being your ears and nose, guys. Come on. The premium Manscaped Weed Whacker uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. That's a lot of things for such a little device, by the way. Its intelligently contoured design enhances the trimming experience, and it's waterproof, which makes it for easy operation and cleaning. The only nose hair trimmer on the market with a powerful, rechargeable lithium-ion battery that lasts up to 90 minutes. Think about how many times you could trim the ear hair and the nose hair in 90 minutes. And get this, 79% of partners polled admit that long nose hair is a major turnoff, as if that's even a question, okay? The real question, in my opinion, is what's wrong with the other 21%? Seriously. So, where was I? Yes, of course. Go over to manscaped.com today. Get 20% off and free shipping. Use the promo code armchair at manscaped.com and check out. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the promo code armchair. What are you waiting for? Trim up your nose hairs.
So, a little flavor of the South. I'm going back to Houston next weekend, and I'm really excited to go see my wife. I think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity. I'm just talking like this because I'm trying to get this out of my mouth before I forget what I was trying to say. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you do. All right. Going back to Houston next weekend. So a little flavor of the South there on that banjo. What I want to tell a story here, so that's kind of what but I'm also watching the Browns-Steelers game, and I'm very critical of the Browns offense, and I just don't get, what's a false start. All right, whatever. I root for the Browns. I don't love them, but, I think that they're, I'd like to see that they're doing well. Kevin Stefanski, new head coach. Week 4, last week, we called it the Hugh game because their former coach, Hugh Jackson, only won 3 games. So within 5 weeks, Kevin Stefanski beat Hugh Jackson's record of his entire Browns tenure over 3 years. So that was kind of funny. So I want to talk about being a guy from California, going to Syracuse, and then going from Syracuse back to California, going from California to Houston and back to California. And I kind of want to shed some light on the emotions that go through that from guys that have been from California, that have gone up to Cuse, and kind of what that would take as a program. I think moving forward to have that work out. So like if you want that big time guy, or maybe even that middle of the road guy, the guy that we get in this year, Lamson from Sacramento. Well, first off, Sacramento, that is not what you're thinking of when you think California. If you're thinking like, hey, come waste some time with me in California at the beach or in Hollywood, Sacramento's not that place. It's kind of more of like a farm town situation. Like my wife, she's up from Petaluma area, Rohnert Park, which is in the Sonoma County, which is all farmland. I mean, they're farmers up there, and they're pretty slow going. It's like Southern living, just in a cooler climate, which, to me, I kind of see myself ending up there at some point because it's just so awesome. It's kind of the hybrid of Texas and Syracuse, but it's warmer than Cuse. It's a smaller town, and it's ranch style living, but in California. I get all the upsides of the California and being close to my family and her family, yada yada yada. So, long story short, so for me, when I got recruited, and really for me, I was, from my sophomore year of high school, every day I was putting together a highlight tape of myself, even on JV, And I would send it out to every school, and that would take about a month. And then if I got no responses, then I would redo my highlight tape to make sure that, I wasn't doing anything wrong or that I needed to put better film on there, or, just kind of think about, hey, I didn't get any responses, so it must mean that my film sucks. And so I'd redo my highlight tape, and then I'd have to burn them on DVDs. So I'd have to reburn like another 100 DVDs and mail them all out. It cost my parents an arm and a leg. And then, and I had to do this pretty much all the way until my senior year, which then coaches started asking for YouTube clips, which is fabulous. And it was funny that I learned how to be a video editor. I learned how to do like this whole kind of media thing by way of me trying to get recruited. So I guess just funny enough, I figured out how to do this whole thing out, and then I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to wind up at UCLA. That was the thing, because they played in Pasadena, my hometown. It was in LA. It was far enough away from my family to where it's like I could go move in there. It was great. And like a ton of my friends from the area, from the 626, my area code, were going to UCLA, and they were committing there, and they're going to have this great team. And Jim Mora was now the coach, and Coach Neuheisel, and Coach Neuheisel actually coached my cousin, Spencer Morona, at the University of Washington. And so there's that family connection, and I thought, you know what, this will be great. I'm going to do that. And then all of a sudden, UCLA had no interest, and basically nobody had any interest my entire time in high school. And so for me, as that guy from California, which I knew I could play, like, don't get me wrong, I had like 14 sacks my senior year of high school. Like, if you want to tell me that's a guy who can't play, I tell you, you don't know what you're talking about. So, and I got better and better and better, and I was actually gonna be pretty good at Syracuse. It just was a shame that, and then having me and Ron Thompson on the other side of it, man, that would have been a lot of fun. I'd have had a lot of fun doing that. So, long story short, I gotta stop saying that. So UCLA was the goal, and I was like, I might take San Diego State. And then I looked into Arizona State. I looked into TCU, SMU, Tulane, Vanderbilt, Northwestern, and and then Cal was the last school that I was like, okay, that's kind of like my grouping that I think I could potentially start at. Not like right away, but eventually, maybe for like 2+ years. Get some reps my sophomore year, starting by junior year, be the man by senior year, NFL draft pick after that. Also pairing it with a great education. I never once... So if you think about it though, like what do all of those schools have in common with each other? And there's a school like left out in this whole situation that sounds very familiar, like all those other ones. It's like Syracuse, Northwestern, USC, Tulane, Vandy. Maybe Vandy's a little bit higher academic, but like all those schools are the same school. Like they all carry the same reputation. It's just like they're in different parts of the country. Like Tulane is the Syracuse of Louisiana. USC is the Syracuse of the West Coast. The only thing that you can say is different is that it's their pool of recruiting and it's their pool of who they're able to attract in that situation. So if like it came down to it, if a student was like, hey, look, I can go to USC or I can go to Syracuse, like not even an athlete, then it would come down to, like, okay, do I want to be a communications major? Do I want to be a dentist? What do I want to do? Do I want to go to business school? I think they're pretty comparable. They carry kind of the same stick as far as, leverage, as well as like Syracuse has the New York City tie-in. So like if my sister was somebody that wanted the big college experience, she went to school in the city at the King's College because she wanted to live in the city. But if she was like, hey, I really want to set myself up for future business in the city, and I'm going to go, do my best to get in that network, she would have been a Syracuse University, student. And, she is super high IQ, like, graduated from college with honors and the whole 9 yards, extremely high IQ. And guys that I knew that got into like Johns Hopkins and Tulane, Vandy, they wanted to go to Syracuse out of Southern California. The problem is, though, is that for whatever reason, when you include, okay, well, now the school is free and you have to play football there, all of a sudden it changes. Like, I don't know what happens, but like when you say, okay, I'm going to go here for free, or I could go to Louisiana for free, or LA for free, or Chicago for free, or Miami for free in my situation, which I ended up actually choosing not to go to Miami and in favor of Syracuse because of what I was talking about, like the whole playing time situation, the degree, yada, yada, yada. I think it actually, that is when the weather comes into play. Because I don't think a regular student even considers that. They just go, oh my gosh, like I got in here. This is super cool. I could go to this party school and all this other stuff. But New York football carries a bad connotation because a lot of people look to the colleges of the area to represent how well the state's football is. Because the NFL has nothing to do with the talent that the state produces. It's all guys from anywhere and everywhere. But what Syracuse has to do is they have to start winning and winning regionally. And that's what really is so messed up about this year and the schedule change and whatnot, was because Syracuse has to change the narrative. Like for me, Syracuse changed the narrative for me when they won the Pinstripe Bowl, tied the Big East, and beat Louisville and West Virginia. Oh, that was the other one I couldn't think of earlier. And beat West Virginia to go take that Pinstripe Bowl, beat West Virginia again. To me, that was saying, look, New York football is changing the narrative of how I see them. And if they can change the narrative and then I can see them in a different light, all of a sudden it becomes, those downsides don't become so glaringly bad. But if you tell me Clemson, South Carolina, where you can barbecue outside 300 days a year, and you got the lakes, and you got Myrtle Beach, and you got Charleston, South Carolina around the corner, and then you can go up the way to the Outer Banks, like it's no comparison. Or you say, I'm going to go chill in Manhattan Beach with Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush and Urban Meyer and Lane Kiffin in the offseason. I'm going to rub elbows with the Rams and the Chargers and everybody else. It's like, okay, well, even if we suck at USC, I have all these things left. But the problem is that nothing hurts more than losing, and you guys are feeling that right now. So the downsides hurt more when you lose, and the downsides hurt less when you win. Because why? Because winning cures everything. It's like the Warriors. Like Kevin Durant said that, you know, the scuffle with Draymond Green and the fact that he wasn't a homegrown guy over there, it ended up really wearing on him. But when they were winning, it wasn't a problem. It's when they saw the writing on the wall that maybe this little run was over. That's when it became the problem. And I know all you guys know that. But for me, Syracuse was the right place for me. And right now, what Syracuse has to recruit, or the guy that Syracuse has to recruit, is the guy that's right for them. Because we haven't put ourselves in a position to go get the guy where we can just sell him on something else. But if we start to win regionally, and we start to do things the right way, and all of a sudden coaching becomes evident that, look, we can supersede our flaws. And that will come next year. It will. It has to. Or else all this mumbling and grumbling becomes justified. So I don't really know what to say. I love Syracuse. I think it's great. I go and defend it all the time. Mike Lasker and I, we talk all the time. All my teammates from Syracuse and I, we love it. It hurts us to our core. You know, if I could go donate $1 million to all of a sudden turn something around, I would do it. If they wanted me to come work there for like minimum wage, I would do it. Because that's how much I love it. And I would gladly go, and maybe I'll spend some summers up there coming up to help out, or I don't know what the case is going to be. But, you know, it really does hurt for me too. I don't want to let you guys know. I don't want to try to sell this as if I'm just like, you know, oh, you know, this doesn't hurt. It kills me. Because I was the guy that said, you know what, no. I'm going to go make something different with Syracuse. I'm going to go be Chandler Jones, Dwight Freeney, Arthur Jones, Ron Thompson, Chris Slayton. I'm going to go be one of those guys. And I never got to put my stamp on it. So I can't even say that, hey, at least during my time we were good. Because, you know, in reality we weren't. And I wasn't able to go help it. And that kills me too. Because I chose to not go to Miami. I chose to not go to Maryland or San Diego State or Utah or Nevada or Tennessee or West Virginia or whatever. You know, it's like I turned down a lot of good schools to go to Syracuse, and I was committed, and I'm still committed. Because to me, the upsides of Syracuse will always still outweigh the downsides, even if we lose. The problem is that I don't want to say it's the next generation. I just want to say that this team needs leadership, and it needs to come within the locker room. There needs to be a guy like me that's going to go in there and fire everybody up. I think that having everybody leave so suddenly, the Dungies, the Kendall Colemans, the Alton Robinsons, the Chris Slaytons, and it wasn't like any of these guys left early. It was the fact that all of our good players were just in one lump sum. And now the difficulty, as we're seeing, is layering those guys. But we're going to do it, all right? You don't have to stay positive. You don't have to like me. You don't even have to finish out the rest of this podcast. All you have to know is that there's guys like me that feel your pain too. And there's a whole list of alumni that are getting real riled up, and we're going to turn it around because it's going to have to be. All right? Love you guys.